Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show. I am your host, Emily Hayden, and today's episode is brought to you by Transcend. Today's guest is Lexi Buentello. She helps build multi-million-dollar brands. She's the former COO of Buff Bunny Collection and the current owner of Business with Bliss. So she's a genius in all things e-commerce, like marketing and building your brand. In today's episode, we covered so many different topics, from entrepreneurship and what that journey looks like, embracing failure as a part of success, some nitty-gritty like AI and SEO, and we also talked a lot about things like manifestation, vision, and goal setting, spirituality, tuning into your divine purpose and soul's mission for being here, and learning to take everything that comes to you in life as a lesson and something that is here for your benefit and for your good. So you're really in for a treat for today's episode. If you guys enjoy these episodes, don't forget to rate and review the show. That's definitely the way that the show grows the most. And also just text this to a friend, maybe share it on your stories. If you'd like, tag both myself and Lexi. We'd love to hear what your feedback was or what your favorite part of the episode was. And let's go ahead and get into today's show. Lexi, welcome to today's show.
Hi. Hello.
All right, so we have aspiring entrepreneurs.
Yes.
We also have people that are already on their entrepreneurship journey, and we have the qualified gym owners, people that own their own practices like chiropractic or in the medical field as well, dentistry, so many different people that are listening, right? And they want to know about building their own brands. So let's first start with the aspiring entrepreneur. So I'm imagining the person that, let's first talk to like the mindset aspect of it.
Yeah.
I'm imagining the person that wants to start their personal training business and their online personal training business. And they're having this idea in their head right now that the market is too saturated.
Yeah.
So what do you say to somebody that feels like it's too saturated and it's too late?
It's never too late, There's so much uniqueness that comes with everyone. So they have everyone, like, so you watching this, listening to this, you have your own unique set of gifts even from when you were very young, right? So the things that you can do, no one else can do it. And that's your power. So really harnessing that and jumping in, because it's never too late. And the way that you could do it can be 10 times better than like the older kids on the block. And there's magic to the newness if you actually just go for it.
I love that so much. And I wanted to start there because you're so profound when you speak, especially when it comes to like mindset, reminding people of who they are. You and I even had a moment where I was at the gym and I was just like having one of those, like, I'm going to quit my job and move to a different country and like blow it all up. And you're like, hello?
You are the Emily Hayden, and we're having this conversation.
Yeah. So I wanted to share that because here I am, over 10 years into my entrepreneurship journey, having my own brand, having my own business, YouTube channel, podcast, sponsorships. And I still have these moments.
Yeah.
So let's talk to the journey of entrepreneurship and like the truth of how it feels and wanting to quit every day.
Oh God, there's so much to that. So you never get to a point where you're like, okay, I did it. I made it. I'm good. It's always
such a good point.
It's such a journey, and it's such an up and down. And I remember I asked my mentor, I was like, shout out Kathy, wherever, if you're listening to this. But I was like,
I love you.
She's amazing. I was like, why? Like, at any moment, do you just feel like it doesn't come out from underneath you? And she's like, no. And I was like, and she's like 40 plus, she's killed, multimillionaire, doing the thing.
That's awesome.
And I was like, it just doesn't go away. And she's like, no. I'm like, why do we do this? And she's like, would you do anything else? And I was like, no, you're right. You're so right. And there's this concept that I heard of that kind of blew my mind. Mm-hmm. So as you get into business, you're very excited. I got this from the Hermazis. They said, you get into business, you don't know anything. So you're optimistic because you're uninformed, but you have enthusiasm because you're like, hell yeah, I'm going to do this. It's going to be so easy. You get into the business, and then that's the up curve. And then you go into the business and you're like, oh, there's a lot of information that I didn't know. This is going to be very hard. Mm-hmm. This is very difficult. So now you're informed and you're a little bit pessimistic. So continuing down that journey, you're in the valley of death. And this is like, shit hits the fan. Things are very hard. This is where about 95% of people would tap out or start something else. And they're like, oh, drop shipping, real estate, whatever the new hot thingy is. Like, let's get into that. Versus like grinding down and be like, no, going all in, keep going. Like, you can do it. And if you can make it past the valley of death, you're now informed and you're optimistic. You may not know everything, but you have enough of a grip on it to like, okay, there's a light at the tunnel. If I just keep going, I can do it. And like, that's like the if Mount Everest is here, this is like you're almost there to the peak and like just going through. You can see the light at the tunnel.
So good. And talk a little bit about failures on your entrepreneurship journey and just what it's like to embrace those, because I feel like some people take the identity of like, I am a failure. They see on Instagram that people are so successful in their entrepreneurship journey from the get-go. We have 20-year-olds making millions.
Yes, 14-year-olds out with like ChatGPT, crazy stuff.
So true. So like let's give them a little dose of reality of what it's like on that journey, and maybe like things that you've learned to embrace those failures.
Yeah. So when things don't work out, it's always working in your favor. And anytime that you have heartache or you don't get into a school or things just, maybe you didn't make a deadline and like you had to make that deadline or else the paperwork doesn't go through to get you to, say you're in high school and you're going to college, right? You're like, it's the end of the world. I didn't go to my dream college. No, it's not. You keep going into the path that you're meant to go on. And even from like, every failure is such a redirection. Everything that ever happens to you is always in your favor. My favorite quote is by Paulo Coelho, but it's in The Alchemist, and the universe is always conspiring for you. And especially like if you want something so much, like it's already yours. And there's been so many times I'm like, I've eaten caca and I'm like, damn it, like that hurts or that sucks or I should have done this or I could have done this. And as a human, we kind of tend to play those like on a feedback loop of like, wow, like I'm such a silly or like I'm such a dummy. You get really pessimistic versus like all of the accomplishments that we have experienced. But man, my failures have built me. Like from something on the surface of like having Zumba classes. Like I've danced since I was a little baby. I love dancing. I got into Zumba, it didn't work. And like people would literally like walk out of the class or like, it wasn't working. I'm like, why? Like, I love it. Like, that format wasn't for me. So then I got into twerking and like, that was my thing. So I created that for women and that took off. So if I would have just stopped at like, okay, Zumba, like I'm not the best Zumba instructor, dang it. I wouldn't have uncovered all the transcendence and like the twerk side of it. And then with business, there's been times that big deals, like huge deals, like, oh, this is going to be like a $1 million deal, right? Fall through with like lack of contracts or like just doesn't happen the way that you think it should, or that you were like betting that it was going to work. If those things would have happened or gone through, I wouldn't be in the position that I am. I wouldn't be living in my soul city. I wouldn't be doing what I do. And it's just like, wow. I attribute that all to the failures.
Wow, that's so good. And I think it shows you how we don't always have the perspective in the moment to understand why the failure is happening. Yeah. So rather than asking why, we can really start to ask what for.
Yes.
So, okay, let's dive into a little bit like some practicals, right? Yeah. So let's go back to this personal training example. She's a personal trainer. She's looking to start her own brand. She's looking to build her website. Yeah. Can we give her some practicals of good things to have on her website that is going to speak to her ideal client? Yeah. And how do they identify their ideal client?
So for the ideal client, when you first start, you're going to be, there's a lot of different beliefs in this. So you can either go back to like, who are you, like 2 lily pads behind, that's your dream avatar. That's one way to do it. As you get into the business, you start to learn who you actually like working with. In the beginning, you don't really know. So you're like, you'll take anyone. You're like, yeah, I'll work for free.
Totally. And it's good for experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Then you get to a point you're a little more established. You actually start to learn who you enjoy working with and who actually, it just works well. You tell them what to do and they take what you do and they multiply it. So for someone that's starting out as a personal trainer, at the end of the day, it's pretty much the same. We need social proof. So we need testimonials of people that like love you, love your work on there. We need your story. People buy on emotions and they buy on stories way more than they just, oh, that's a sick site. Like, yes, you want a sick website, but you also want the meat and potatoes in that, the heart of it. And then also just sales copy is so important, and sales copy is just how you write on anything. There's a lot of ways to persuade people. A lot of the times when you're in the beginning, you're talking about all of your bells and whistles of like, oh, look at all these things that I can offer you. But it's like, no, like, what are the benefits? Like, what are you actually going to get by working with me? And what's that picture? How can I draw that out for you and show it to you? Because it's a website, right? So the more you can also make it less cold, so more warm, like putting a video like, hey guys, blah, 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 blah. They can get your energy. They know what they're getting into. And amazing graphics. Those are also great. And also like an amazing logo. You can use Canva, guys, but everyone also use Canva. So don't get mad if like another trainer has the same logo. Like, what did you expect? So taking the time to really invest in making your brand something that's built to last, so that people can see it and they can just feel it when they're on their website. They're like, oh, this is different. I want to work with them.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Business with Bliss and how you do that with your clients, because you help people literally build brands. Like you've built multi-million-dollar brands before. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about that process when someone new that comes to you. What are like some initial things? Maybe it's like an initial assessment or things that you want to know in order to like get them started.
Yeah. So the very first thing I do with all my clients is vision and goal setting. So this is actually something I worked with. I used to work at Lululemon, and they did this exercise with me, and they're like, what do you want to do? And at the time I was pre-med, I had my biology degree, did all the things that you need to do, took my MCAT. All right. We were in it.
I didn't know that you were in pre-med.
Yeah.
I was in pre-med.
Yeah. You know what's funny? There's so many of us. Like,
is there?
Yeah.
That never went through?
But no, but like the intention. So I think there's like, you want to serve. So that's what she asked. She's like, well, why do you want to be a doctor? I'm like, well, and she kept digging, and it's like, your parents wanted that. And I'm like, literally. And so she's like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, literally.
Thank you for helping me with that just now.
Literally. And she's like, well, why do you want that? I'm like, well, that's because that's all I had ever known. And so she kept digging. Her name was Becca from Lulu in San Antonio. And she's like, Lex, like, if you could do anything, what would it be? And like, why do you want to do that? I'm like, well, I want to serve. And so she's like, okay. So what would that look like? Maybe if that would, like, just take that away for a second. I'm like, okay, like at the time, this is 2015, 2016. She was asking me what would that be. There was Danae who worked for Christian Guzman.
I remember Danae.
Yes, Danae, yes. So she was working with Athlete, traveling and doing all this stuff. I'm like, I would love to do what she does, but it doesn't exist. So like, I don't know what you want me, like, how would I put that? And she's like, just write it down. I'm like, okay, Becca, but it doesn't exist. So like, I'm writing down my passion planner, like, okay, like the job that Danae has, cool.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, that's when Heidi Summers with Buff Bunny had posted looking for an assistant in San Antonio. So essentially, that same job that didn't exist, like manifesting it into reality.
That is so wild.
Oh, my life is like, so like, I get chills just thinking about it.
I got chills thinking about that. It's crazy because I love that you were able to just now express that the version of you back then was like, why would I write this down?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Yes.
Because I feel like a lot of the listeners can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
Like, why, this is stupid to write it down. It doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
So that's really cool to see.
Yeah, I still just keep getting, because like, even as you're saying it, like there's so much of my life, like me living in my high rise, that's my straight out of my vision board is from writing it down. Like living in San Diego, talking here, like it literally is from the thought, because the thought creates the action, creates the behaviors, creates all of that, the habits. But so yeah, that started my journey. I was her assistant and then full blown COO. So that's how I got into the e-commerce space. And with that comes how to do, how not to do, growing pains. Like we went from 0 to 3 million very quickly.
Wow.
And I went from little baby assistant to full on chief operating officer. So it was a lot. It was a lot.
And it sounds like you got the opportunity to do all jobs.
Yeah, all of it.
Within a brand.
Legal, HR. Yeah. So bringing goods in, importing, distribution, fulfillment, employees, learning how to work like for people, through people, under people. Wow. It was a lot. Yeah.
Wow.
But,
and again, I just want to reflect that it's another thing that with perspective, it's like it was preparing you to do what you do now.
Yeah, exactly.
How cool is that?
So I honestly could not have gone to college. So if I were to go to college for e-commerce, I would not have been able to buy that kind of information. Yeah.
That's also mind-blowing, right? Because we have this society that says essentially that you like have to go to school. That's like the way, the societal conditioning.
Yes.
And I feel like now more people are kind of breaking free from that, where if it doesn't feel like fully aligned with them, that they are feeling more free not to.
Yeah.
And I'm not really like for one or the other generally. I'm more about like tune in with yourself and decide if it's an experience, the education that you need, want, or desire. Because for myself, I went to college too. I was pre-med and I loved it. And I'm so glad that I went. I also don't use.
But you kind of are. You kind of do in little ways. Not like SN1 and SN2 and like organic chem and nomenclature.
Yeah. I loved OChem though.
I did too. OChem 1 is my jam. OChem 2 not so much. OChem 1
is
OChem 1 is fantastic. But OChem 2 no.
I love that we're little nerds together. I didn't know this. Okay, so what was something that you learned from such immediate growth? Like going from 0 to 3 million pretty quickly.
Yeah.
What was something that you learned in that jump of growth?
you're not going to have all the answers. Just keep going. And if you can work through people and you can master the art of working through people, people are everything. And the more you can learn to navigate human nature, like how people show up, their personalities, and the more you can really just, I mean, this is even if you're an entrepreneur. If you can learn, one of my favorite books is How to Win Friends, Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Love that book. It kind of just like pops your bubble, because we all, until maybe like 21 and 25, maybe you never do, but at some point you kind of pop your bubble of like, oh, I'm not, the whole world doesn't revolve around me?
Totally.
Whoa, that's crazy. And that book helped me learn that, but then not only that, but like just working in an organization, you just learn, because that's in business. People don't want to see like a mission statement, right? Like, we do all of these things, like that's great, but like, what's in it for me, and how can we serve, and how can we show up for you? That's how people operate. So if we can learn people and like really, really show up for them, like that makes all the difference. But there's just so many learning curves. It's like, you're not, one of my Marie Forleo, she says, I never lose. I either learn or I never fail. I'm always learning. So she's never losing. She's always learning, or just keep on going.
I love that. And it kind of goes back to your core belief that you shared, which is a shared core belief of mine as well, which is that the universe is always conspiring for you.
Yes.
I really realized when I started to embrace that in my life that I was able to embrace anything that came. So even like conflict or hardship, or even I remember one time I got this like one of those gut punch lessons from business.
Yeah.
Where you're like, a really expensive mistake. Yep. And you're like, I'm literally going to throw up right now.
I'm like throwing up right now just thinking of mine.
And I remember in that moment, the previous version of me that didn't really know how to handle those things, I would have thrown up. Maybe not literally, but like I would have carried that feeling throughout the rest of the day. And instead, I actually took that moment, I took a big deep breath, and I looked in the mirror and I channeled my higher self.
Yes.
And I said, what would my higher self, how would she respond in this moment? And immediately the answer was there. She would be embracing of whatever lesson this is. And she would know that everything's okay.
That's so good.
Even if it was a hard lesson, even if I went broke for a second.
And we're so emotionally attached. No, you are so spot on. I've had two of those. One super big, actually, that happened to me that I was like, ooh, that's a sucker punch. And I remember feeling like the world was swept under me. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I thought all this was good. All my eggs in a basket, It didn't work out. And it was, once again, shout out to my mentor. She's like, I need you to think of this moment and remind yourself when it's your multi-million dollar empire and the things that you're going to do. This is everything that you ever do is for you, not for anybody else. So if you're listening to this, if you're a dishwasher or if you're a car washer or a server, whatever you are, everything you ever do is for you. So you should be the best at whatever it is that you do, even if you're an assistant, because that comes back tenfold and you never know. You just never know. Like people, there's so many full circles in life and you never want to burn bridges.
I love this. And I feel like it is taking us into what it's like to have the entrepreneur mindset.
Yeah.
Even if you're not quite an entrepreneur yet.
Yeah.
So speak to that a little bit for the people that are waitresses or, we're in any position that's working for somebody else. How can they adopt that entrepreneur lifestyle?
Yeah. So I think with that is everything, even if you're like, oh, I'm not in business or I don't do sales or I don't want to, especially women, we have a hard time in the beginning, like with sales or like, I don't want to, but everything's a sale. Like everything is your essentially like how you talk to your partner or like how do you go anything. There's always some kind of persuasion or negotiation or something along the lines of that. And if you're able to learn that, or if you're able to learn just like basic business fundamentals, it'll really serve you in so much. Because so even if you're not everyone's a number one where they want to have their own business and do those things. Some people are like number 2, number 5, number 7. The number 5 and 7 at like Facebook, Google, they're killing it. Like they're absolutely killing it.
I love that you mentioned this because I feel like, especially with social media, there's this influx that like it's almost a pedestal to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But yet then you find people that are truly like it's not in their DNA to be an entrepreneur. They're in these spaces, they're trying to do this entrepreneur thing, and they're feeling like a failure because they're trying to wear this like mask that's not truly them.
Yeah.
So speak to a little bit about like the importance of like the number 2 on the team or the number 7 or 14 and like how could somebody still have the entrepreneur mindset in that kind of position?
Yeah. So I attribute everything to my team. So one thing that I love is if you're going to be a star, instead of being a star, like be a universe with a bunch of stars around you.
Whoa. Earlier, I said something. You said it's a book title. That is a book title.
Yeah. I'm getting so many chills today. It's amazing.
I know. I love this.
Yeah. On it, I attribute so much. I cannot do anything. I actually say I am not. I don't know if you cuss on your thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I say I am not shit without my team. Like I literally could not do what I do without my team.
Wow.
Literally could not. Marissa, I will call. Sometimes it'll be like 11 p.m. and we're just grinding, and I just couldn't do what I do without her.
Wow.
And that's and also Gabby before that when I was in Texas. Like I attribute so much. Jake was a videographer. Like even just like the people that do like tech at an event for public speaking, like could not do it without them. Yeah.
Wow. How do you overcome the fear of things that are other people's biggest fear? For example, hosting your own event.
Yeah.
And public speaking.
Yeah.
These are things that I think people are maybe have the desire to have, but have so much fear that it stops them from doing these things. So can you speak to that a little bit?
So I think with that, if it's placed on your heart, you already have the goods and resources to make it happen. So you just gotta send it. And that's with public speaking. I was in church and I had that download. I like just saw people. I was like, I don't know what that is. It was almost like that vision of that. I'm like, that's very interesting. So it was placed in my heart, and we created Limitless, which is now 5 years going, which is now, so we were in San Antonio, now we're doing San Diego. And that's a crazy story that we can get into later. But the way that it started to what it is now, if it's something that's scary, you just have to do it. If you're called to do it, you just have to do it. Ed Mila actually says that he doesn't call the prepared, he prepares the called. And that's one of my, like, you just got to go. And honestly, with anything that scares you, if it scares you a little bit, it should. That's probably, you're on the right path. Like those butterflies, you need to do those things. And I would just say get out there, because your first one is probably not going to be great. You're probably going to suck, and that's okay, because you can't get to your 50th all-star moment, rock star moment, without having those very awkward, clumsy 1, 2, 3s.
So good. And there are some times where you may surprise yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And it might be better than you expected. And you might realize, wow, this has been like my zone of genius.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know because I didn't go and do it. Because I remember when I hosted my first retreat, I definitely had all the fear. Like, what if nobody comes? What if it completely blows up and then I have all these people that hate their experience? And I just had all the thoughts and feelings, but I just felt it strong in my heart that I was meant to do it. And I saw it so many times, like in my, visions and whatnot. And that first retreat, it literally was so effortless. It was my full zone of genius.
Yeah.
And not just that, even the calendar, even the schedule was to the T perfect. Like it flowed in LA.
Oh, wow.
With traffic
That's
and everything. Like everything just flowed so effortlessly. And I literally watched people like come in their shells, break free of those shells, develop even more sense of self and connection with others. So that was really beautiful. I've definitely experienced a lot of learning lessons since then and future ones that I've done. But that was just an experience of feeling the fear, going for it, and actually going better than I thought. Yeah. So you never know. You might surprise yourself.
Well, and I think there's so much reward. Like I feel like that is the cost of like greatness is like having that fear and being like, I'm just going to do it anyway. Yes. And it's not like, if it was easy, everyone would just be out there living their best lives. But no, it takes a lot of courage and like a lot of balls.
Totally. And I'm being called to share one more experience, one that's not good.
Yeah.
Like
no, people need to hear it.
So important. Yeah. And I don't just want to, share just the successes.
Yeah.
By the way, if you guys hear my children, they are getting at it. So I wanted to share this next experience, and it was one of the first times I was asked to speak publicly. Yeah. And I've never been like too scared of speaking publicly, and I almost, maybe I had too much confidence going into it because I went and I spoke, and I'm pretty sure if I had a recording of that today, I would cringe and crawl into a corner. And literally. And when I was there, I was like, I don't think that was great, but I didn't like cry about it or anything. Yeah. But like now looking back, I'm like, that was definitely awful. But yet I did it. Yeah. I embraced that that's where I was at. Yeah. And now I've gotten to this point where, because I'm an embodied version of myself, when I show up to speak, I can do it with such a grounded presence. Yes. And it feels good. And I feel like I can really bring my energy and share that with others. Yes. So I wanted to share that because that's an area of my life where I did not start strong in. It really came from showing up, being fearful, getting it pretty, I wouldn't say wrong, but like not being great. Yeah. and now feeling much more empowered. And now I get to like really fine tune. So every time, like I spoke at your event, which thank you for having me.
You guys, if you have not been able to see Emily in action, if you hearing the story, like there's no way. Because like I saw her live in person, I'm like, you are made for this,
years
girl.
ago.
But isn't that crazy? Because you are just so like, you can just see when someone's living in their magic, like in their, what they're supposed to be doing. And that is what I saw when you were talking.
Thank you.
Just fantastic. Yeah. So that's so, but that's the beauty. Like we have to earn our stripes.
Yes.
And you don't get to skip it. No one can bypass that. And like,
yes.
I mean, back in middle school, we had the blue eyeshadow. Nowadays, they're all cute in middle school, but you can't bypass that like awkward phase to get to your like all-star moment. Yeah.
That's so good. Or even think about, I always tell people if they're worried about social media, which we can get into social media next, to go back and look at my first YouTube video.
Yeah.
Go back and look at my first podcast. Like, and I don't even cringe looking at it. I embrace her.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for being willing to show up like that. When I literally on camera said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where this is going to go. And I used to talk like that because I wasn't like embodied.
But then look where that got.
Yes.
Like that's insane.
Yes. Like so much gratitude for her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that inspires people to know that they can get it wrong.
Yeah.
They can allow themselves the process of failing or not being good at something. And eventually with consistency and effort, you're going to get good. You're going to find your flow, find your consistent, pathway, and also your ideal clients, your ideal audience.
Yeah, it will always work out. It always does. Even if that's part of the entrepreneur game is like just keeping on going. Dave Ramsey said this. He's like, you see these big billion-dollar companies, you're like, oh my God, they did it. They made it. They're gleaming. He's like, our gleaming mountain of success is we're just standing on top of all of our failures.
Oh, that's so good.
Instead of under it. So it's just you just keep going because we're all going to eat shit. We're all going to take a couple punches. It's going to be really hard. Like, you thought this was going to be easy? No, it's hard. It's super hard, but it's worth it because it's yours. No one can ever take it away from you.
How many times do you think you've wanted to quit your entrepreneurial journey?
Like once a month, I think. No, it's so I think with all things like we have our push seasons, we have our like chill seasons, we have our super abundant seasons, we have like feast famine, and that can happen a lot too. And whenever we're kind of in that famine mode, we're like, oh my God, everything's burning to the ground. I can't do anything right. And then we kind of like shut down and then boom, we'll be injected with like this other like great abundance. So it's just learning to glide with all the ebbs and flows and really just keep on going. If there's anyone listening to this, it's like, oh, I just want to do it, but I'm scared. It's like, if it was placed in your heart, you're already divinely guided. So it's gonna work out. And even before this, I was kind of like, I'm a little nervous, but it's like, okay, God, like, please use me as a vessel, whatever needs to get through, like use me, and whoever needs to hear whatever they need to hear, I hope that you allow me to give that to them.
I have chills. This is why I love chatting with you. Okay, so I mentioned that moment earlier, how I was in the gym and I was having one of those moments and you came next to me and you just encouraged me, you championed me, you reminded me who I was. And that was such a moment for me that I got to like hang on to and remember. So can you speak to the power of community, even if it's one person, or even like how mentorship has impacted your journey?
Oh yeah. So community is everything. So you can't do anything without community. People want to have brands and like sell these things, but it's like, okay, but who's your follow? Like not following numbers wise, but like who are the people that are ride or die for you that like you've shown up for, that will do whatever the thing is because you've done everything for them. That's the power of community. And if you can actually show up for others in your neighbor, start in your backyard. So with me, it started as simple as like twerk classes, which evolved into public speaking, which evolved into like public leadership summits. And these things piggyback off each other. Even if you don't think they connect, they really do. And I used to struggle so hard with like, okay, like twerking is so like spicy and like business consulting and e-commerce and digital marketing, that's very techy. And so I would I would shut down one to not do both. But honestly, like my dream clients love both aspects of it. And there's so much power even in the community aspect. People, like you were saying, so like even a twerk class, we'll have people come in their shell and then they leave so like chest up, just like not caring. And they literally go on to make their own businesses. I joke that twerking is a gateway drug to public speaking and like business domination. Well,
okay. So speak to that though.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like it's a gateway drug to public speaking? So what does it do for people?
I joke with everyone when they come to class because they're a little bit reserved. They're not sure, but it's just like, okay, outside you can be however you want, but here, not that you need one, but in case you needed a permission slip, here's your bad bitch permission slip.
I love it.
And for this next hour, I want you to know it's just all love and just have fun, like just like own it. And it's crazy because they'll come in like, oh, I don't know, and they'll leave just like literally like so brightened up, and like they literally turn into actual business clients that have their own businesses and like take off. So, and actually one of my clients has their own sorority who's like nationwide Girl Gains. Like, it's just crazy what happens with like little moments of encouragement and like, you can do this. And you had asked me before, like, what do you do with the people as soon as you start? The vision and goals. So that's the very first thing we do. What do you want? How can we get there? And people will be like the same thing, like kind of silly to write these things down. I had a client, he's like, okay, well, I want to live in Spain. And he was living, I think, with his dad at the time. He's like, I want to live in Spain. I'm like, okay, write it down. He's like, I was like, how much do you want to make revenue? And he's like, 20K, like asking permission. I'm like, okay, write it down, like 20K months. He's like, okay, right. He's like, this man lives in Spain, makes way more than 20K a month, way more. And it's just nuts, the power of like taking pen to paper and the encouragement of having someone. And I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at without my community, without my mom and dad. Oh my God, they're the biggest. Like, you go girl. My dad, I would have
awesome.
My dad, I would have no one come to a class and he would be there. Like, it's okay, Mika, we can go get a margarita.
Stop.
Like,
oh my
he would be there. Yeah, my mom too. Oh, she's always, you can do it. Even like, Mom, I can't do it. She's like, you do it. I'm like, you're right. Okay, I can do it.
Oh my goodness, I love that. I loved your video, by the way, that went viral with your mom. Can you tell us about that?
So I haven't really been on Instagram because I just, like there's algorithms changing and I'm like, oh, like whatever. I posted a video that I didn't even think anything of. It was my mom. She wanted a ragdoll cat so bad. And I got her a ragdoll cat. And if you don't know what a ragdoll cat, they're just like these like super floofy cats. I put it in a little cookie jar and surprised her the whole time. Mind you, my family can't keep a secret. So my dad,
wait, did he tell her?
He was like, I know what you're getting. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? And so he like told her, so ragdoll cats are kind of expensive. And he's like, yeah, well, it's $2,500. And so she's guessing like price points of like whatever the thing is. And I'm like, why would you tell her? Why would you just say that? And so sure enough, she's there. I get a video of her crying and she's like, oh my God, it's a ragdoll cat. I know it's a ragdoll cat. That's what she's getting me. I'm like, why? And then my whole family's just in cahoots, like looking so guilty and like suspicious. And I'm like,
cannot keep a secret.
You cannot keep a secret. I'm like, you guys. So then I had to tell her, I was like, Mom, like, you think in this economy, I would get you a ragdoll cat, and I'm allergic. Like, what are you thinking? Like, you're crazy. And she's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I got so emotional. Cut to, we drove to Ventura, which is 5 hours without traffic from San Diego, get the kitten, the cutest little kitten ever, fly to Texas, surprise her, freaks out. And that video had like 2.3 million views. I've never had that kind of views. It was my mom and a kitten, a little fur ball that did it. Yeah.
A little fur ball. So I love that. And I'm so happy for your mom to get her dream cat. That's so sweet. What a cool moment for you.
Oh, yeah.
To have the ability in this economy to buy her dream cat.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really beautiful testament, I think, to what it's like to working on your own business and creating something for yourself that then you can give back to others.
Yes.
And since we're on the topic of social media, let's talk about people who struggle to show up online.
Yeah.
And how they can find their voice online when they're seeking to promote and be the face of their business and their brand.
Yeah. I would always say do it for the one, and it doesn't matter how many views it gets, whatever. Even as you go on, maybe you have like a viral video and then the next you get like nothing, but like, that's okay. You just keep going, and then you compound that over time. That's the community that you're building. These are the people that are watching you. So do it for the one. If you've been called to share something, it's so much bigger than you. And that can help you, that can remove the ego from it too, because you're like, oh my God, I'm so scared. I'm this, like, who am I to make leadership summits, do all these things? But it's like, it has nothing to do with me. It's like, I was just called to do this for other people, even for the one. And you just show up for the one.
I love that so much. And there's this book called Big Magic, and it talks about creativity and how to spark the creativity within, and how creativity is like this energy that is around and it's looking for somewhere to go. And how these creative ideas will come to whoever is open and receptive to it, and will be the proper like conduit of that creative energy.
I love that.
And I feel like that's just what you're talking about, that, sometimes we can get in our ego that it's about us, and it's like we can have imposter syndrome because of that, but really realizing that it's not about us, that we just get to co-create with the divine, and that the divine will use anyone who is willing and ready and who's in their highest alignment. So in knowing that, I agree with you. I think it takes the pressure off, and we get to just say what wants to come through me today. And anytime I've created my best content, it has come from that. One time I woke up and I said, what is it for today? And the message that came through was your journey with alcohol.
Wow.
I was like, weird, I don't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
And it was like, exactly, like talk about your journey because you used to when you were in college, right? So talk about everything that had to deal with that. So I did, I released the podcast and I get all these messages of people saying, this is what I've been currently struggling with.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen another way of how to experience and interact with alcohol.
Yeah.
And now this has just given me a way for that. So it just showed me that that was like a very divinely inspired moment. That wasn't like I'm going to sit down and craft this perfect content strategy with ChatGPT, even though I'm not against that.
Yeah.
You know, which we can get into AI.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like those divinely inspired messages, I feel like, are the ones that are in your highest alignment for your path.
Yes.
So what do you feel about AI? Are you using AI in your business? If so, what do you find is helpful about it? And is there anything that has been like unhelpful?
I'm absolutely using AI. And if you're not using AI, you need to get on it because you will definitely be left behind. People are like, oh, I'm afraid of AI and blah, 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 blah. It's like, don't be afraid of AI. Be afraid of the people that use AI because they're using it. And if you're not on that same any kind of, you're just going to be swept by the wayside. Yeah. So there's so many cool things. There's cool things and there's also uncool things about it. But if you have the ChatGPT, so also don't be fooled by like an app that makes you pay for access to ChatGPT. Like the basic ChatGPT is free. There's premium ChatGPT, which there are cool benefits to it. But with AI, you can do stuff that, for me, I can have ADHD. So for me to sit down and like write like SOPs for a business, like that'll take a lot because it's not like fun, right? But with ChatGPT, it'll knock it out in like 2 seconds and you can make it yours. But if it wasn't for that initial like moment to be able to brainstorm, a lot of the stuff wouldn't actually ever take place or come to fruition. But with ChatGPT, you can do so many things. You can actually so you can link read a website, right? And it'll tell you all of the key points. So say you have two competitors, you're like, I want you to read website A, I want you to read website B. Okay, so now that you know these things, I want you to take their strong points, or like I want you to take their SEO keywords, or I want you to take how they talk, or their voice, or their style, or their sales copy. Now write it for my website.
No way.
And it'll do that. And it'll give you an outline of like, and do all these things.
I did not know you could do that. Okay,
so many things.
Let's use more practical examples like that of other ways that we can use AI in a way that can help us in our business.
Yeah. So with AI right now, there's DALL-E 3. So I believe that's the premium version of ChatGPT. You can create all kinds of stuff. You can make book covers like The Adventures of Emily Hayden, and it'll pop up a picture of you and Vinny and your doggies, and like with the San Diego skyline.
Dogs sold.
And you can even have you make a book, and it'll give you chapters 1 through 17. All the books, things that you need. There is, my favorite thing is using it as a way to, so if you just ask it to like make you sales copy for a website, it's going to give you very generic, like unleash and unlock the blah, 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 blah. So if you use like plugins that can analyze voice and style. So say that there's a competitor. So anyone here, you can actually go to Facebook ad library. So Google Facebook ad library. It'll pull up all of the advertisements currently on Meta. And you can actually look at your competitors, see what kind of graphics they're using, see how they write, see literally what their persuasive copy is, copy that into ChatGPT, have it analyze that voice and style. So instead of ChatGPT giving you like a generic sales copy, it would write it in that style of your competitor for you and like how you need to write it. And like the way that they like broke it down, like, oh, Susan lost 10 pounds. And like all the way their framework is, it's going to make that framework exactly for you with the style of the competitor. And then you just make it your own. So it's a little bit better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. I personally have started to use ChatGPT as my personal assistant when I like need to organize or when I want to, like brainstorm or whatever. I start using it as that. And I'm like, this is the best
it's literally
little
amazing.
assistant ever. I feel like I have a little friend. I'm like, hey, these are my thoughts of what I want to create. Can you organize this in a way that's going to A, B, and C? And then it pops it out and I'm like, perfect.
It's so great. And it's obviously as good as the prompter, right? So people are like, oh, well, then everyone just going to have the same thing. It's like, no, you have to know how to say it. Like if Gordon Ramsay has the ingredients to do a beef Wellington and I have the ingredients to do beef Wellington, they're not going to be the same. It's definitely as good as like the person using it. But another thing, so there's a lot to websites. There's the organic, there's the SEO part. That stuff can be very techy and be overwhelming. So at the very beginning process, SEO is your search engine optimization. It's how you show up like on Google. You would like to be on Google first page. That takes a lot of time to grow organically. But if you're like, what? And you have no idea, the first step you could do is if you have like Kelthade Kombucha as a product slot on your website, you could ask ChatGPT, assume the role of SEO expert, write me a page of copy for ranking with you. If you have keywords, you could give it the keywords that you want it to rank for, and boom, it'll write you like an amazing SEO product slot. So all of that stuff, one of my clients actually didn't even know, it was by a happen chance. So he did this for all of his products, and without even running ads, he was making $2,000 or $3,000 in supplements just with the SEO.
Just because when people search something related to his product, it was one of the first ones that popped up.
Yeah, because he built in the SEO. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I mean, they even have SEO for like YouTube videos.
Oh yeah, no, SEO it's very overwhelming, right? Because the SEO is, there's so many different parts. There's your domain authority, there's domain rating, there's how many backlinks you have. There's also Google EEAT. So it can be very technical, and it's actually called technical SEO. There's on-page SEO, off-page. But with anyone out there that's like, it's okay. You can just start with like literally basics of like trying to write. So don't just put like, get this kombucha, you're going to love it. Like maybe put some more words into it so that you have like a nice title. You're ranking for the keywords that you need to rank, and it'll help organically.
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing. So, okay, I want to go into a little bit about how personal development affects business owners.
Yeah.
So, and also not just business owners, but leadership specifically. So, yeah, what have you experienced that has added to your own leadership abilities as a result of the work that you've done on yourself?
I read a book, Aubrey Marcus, Own the Day. And I attribute my success to cold showers, lemon water with pink salt, 3 grams of pink salt, and meditation every morning.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, obviously a lot of hard work, but like those 3 things in the morning really got me from San Antonio, my little apartment in San Antonio, like being a personal trainer, to high rise in San Diego, doing consulting and doing what I love. And it sounds so silly. It's like, okay, a cold shower. It's like, it's just the who doesn't? I love a hot shower. We love being super cozy, but it's the act of choosing to do something uncomfortable. The very first thing that you do in the morning, it's gonna prime you to do uncomfortable stuff like doing cold outreach or like outbounds and all kinds of stuff. It primes you ready to seize the day.
I think that's so good because we're in such a society where we are built on comforts and what's quickly accessible, even like, food delivery services and whatnot. We want to be comfortable. We want takeout. We want to be cozy at home. So we actually have to try harder to implement things that challenge us and build our resilience in life.
Yes.
Right. I feel like, grandparents and grandmas, they had so much more challenge in their everyday life simply because everything wasn't so easily accessible.
Yeah.
So I love that you share that. I'm a huge believer in cold plunges, cold showers.
Yes.
And I think it's just, like you said, it's one of those things where if you're facing the uncomfortable thing first thing in the day, it really sets the tone for the rest of the day.
Absolutely. And then just writing. So the vision and goal, there's so many times that I would write in my my passion planner. I'm awoken to my San Diego home. This is back when I was in San Antonio. And I was like, how am I going to move? Everything I have, my community, my family, my business is here. Like, how am I going to move to San Diego? And I would just write it over and over. And I would be so descriptive, like down to I wrote for 10-year goals. So that's how I like to write. So
10-year?
10-year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And what's crazy, when I started doing this, the things that I wanted in 10 years were like compounding. So within 6 months to a year, I was reaching because I was already, if you aim for nothing, you're going to hit your goal every time. So you have to know where you're going.
Wow. That's so good. Yeah. I remember when you got your high-rise apartment here and just the gratitude that was just pouring out of you, and still to this day does. Yeah. And when I recognized that, I was like, oh, this wasn't an accident. Oh, she is fully aware that she manifested this.
Yes. I literally, so if you guys take anything that you should do your vision and goals on your lock screen.
Can I see?
Yeah.
Wow. So pretty. Wait, hit it again.
Oh, so you.
Yeah. So pretty.
I went to Paris.
Yeah.
And just like the things, so even my coach now, Brett, he was on one of these like a couple years ago. He is amazing, fantastic, was on my lock screen. I was like, if I could just work out with this man one time, that'd be so cool. And flash forward, I tagged him, and he ends up becoming my coach, and he ends up speaking at the Limitless Summits. And I'm like, you were on my lock screen. I'm so appreciative. But it's just, that's your RAS system filtering like what you want. And
Explain what that is.
Yeah. So your RAS system, if you decide you want to go buy a red truck, right? The moment you decide you want to buy a red truck, your RAS system, you're going to start seeing red trucks everywhere. And it's not that they weren't always there, but now you're looking for it because you've already decided that you want that. So by deciding you want something, you start to look for those opportunities. And like with me in San Antonio, I was super overwhelmed by getting called to San Diego, but I'm like, oh God, are you sure? Like everything's here. And the amount of times that I would pray for signs, specifically one of my clients at the time, she's like, I want you to say 3 things. And I was like, okay, like Reese's Pieces, hot Cheetos, and a Mustang.
Wait,
and
what? Just 3 random
just 3 things. She's like, 3 things. And I was like, so those things.
I love that those are your things. You're so cute.
She's like, give me a timeline. I was like, 2 weeks. I didn't know what she was doing. I was like, 2 weeks. And she's like, okay, so we're going to pray within these 2 weeks. If San Diego's for you, you're going to see these 3 things. If you don't see them, it's not for you. So we're going to pray. So don't tell anyone for the 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks, tell whoever. Okay, cool. So I was like, okay, cool. First week, Mustangs are everywhere. Did not see any Mustangs, like not one. So I was like, okay, it would be interesting. And then there was a dusty, busty car parked out of my friend's apartment complex, and I was called to go look at it, and it was a dusty, busty, like old school Mustang that didn't even look like a body style Mustang, but it said Mustang. So I was like, yeah, that's Mustang. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then the next, I was at a hotel, and it had one of the things was peppermint, and it was something in the shampoo that I'd seen that. So I'm like, okay, that's another one, and then. So sorry, it wasn't Reese's, it wasn't Hot Cheetos, it was Reese's Pieces. So the Reese's Pieces, we're at deadline. So 2 weeks in, I haven't seen my Reese's Pieces, and I've seen Reese's peanut butter cups everywhere. I'm like, okay, maybe San Diego isn't for me. Like, I guess I'm gonna have to let it go. Literally like 11:59, like down to the deadline. I was showing a photo like, ew, like look at what they're eating, like that's so gross. And I was like, what? It's hot Cheetos. I love hot Cheetos. And he's like, no, zoom in. So I zoom in and there's Reese's Pieces with a hot Cheetos. And I was like, what?
That's so specific.
That is so specific. I was like, wait, that's so weird. And so that's just like the beginning of like, I would say San Diego everywhere. And that was like not only my RAS system filtering, but like I was so called here. And I'm like, I don't know why. I just have to figure it out. So I have to go. And I was meditating, I was praying, I was like, God, are you sure? Like, show me a sign. I was staying at my friend's house. I get up for meditation, and she had, it was a travel room, and so she had all these different things. The first thing I make eye contact with is literally a San Diego frame. I'm like, wait, okay, that's weird. The final straw for me, I come to visit one of my friends, and her apartment complex had like a security code. And I was like, oh, what's your code? And she's like, oh, it's 6102. And I'm like, that's my family like number. Like that's like our number. Like that's, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm just being, silly, but that's a 1 in 10,000 chance. So I was like, hey, all right.
Wow.
San Diego it is. Like, let's go.
Okay, I love what you're talking about here, right? Because I feel like the divine speaks in so many different ways.
Loud.
And is also so willing to give us signs and affirmations and confirmations. So yeah, like what have you learned in your life as a result of following these synchronicities?
Oh, by trusting and having blind faith in this divine calling and whatever it is, the gifts and like the return is just crazy. It's like unbelievable. Like God is so good and he's always working for us. And like whatever you believe, even if you believe in the pasta fairy and noodle monster, like that noodle monster has your back and like wants you to eat all the pasta and win all the things. But I think that's my biggest, it's just like if you have it placed in your heart, go for it. It always works out. Like I promise you. And even if you're like, oh shit, that hurt. Like it's taking you further into where you need to go.
I fully believe that. And I have an experience of that because I've had times where there were all these synchronicities. And I was like, wow, this is a green light, go this way. Yeah. And then it didn't work out the way that I wanted. Yeah. And me being a little bit younger in my just belief and experience of these like synchronicities and divine messages, I questioned it. I was like, was it really supposed to be for me? Because I wasn't able at that time to hold space for the light and the darkness, the good and the bad, the conflict and the success, the failure and the success, right? Yeah. And so now with where I'm at, when I have those synchronicities, I fully embrace it knowing that even if it goes wrong, even if it doesn't work out the way that I wanted, it's fully for me. Like this is, because the way I view life is that we're these souls having a human experience. Yes. And this is our curriculum essentially. Like Earth school. Yeah, Earth school. Yeah, you know. So it's like everyone has their own curriculum that they're here to learn. And so when those lessons appear, I just get to embrace it as, okay, this is my lesson, even if it's hard. Yeah. So, I just wanted to share that because I know that when you're following those synchronicities, sometimes it works out really well and it feels really good. Yeah. And other times it doesn't feel really good, but it's always for you. Yeah. It's always going to build you up and make you better. And there are lessons to learn if you're willing to look.
Oh, for sure. And I think the more that I'm straight up delusional. I'm like, It almost is like by happen chance too. Is my friends are always like, everything just always works out for you, and I never like gave it much thought. But I'm like, oh, and it was one of my friends saying to me, she's like, you're highly favored and highly blessed, and she told me that, and I'm like, you're right, and it's not just me. It's like you're right. Like God is so good, and like, but I've told people that, and they've taken that identity of like I'm highly favored, highly blessed, and things just work out for them.
Isn't that crazy how our own belief in an identity can change our experience in this world?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, things just really do. But not everything's perfect. Absolutely. Like as much as we win, we also have losses, but it's just continuing. I will go from one day, like, I'm not going to make it. Like, this is really scary, like a sheet. And the next day I'm like, I'll buy this whole building. I'm like, it's this part of the ebb and the flow and just ups and downs for sure.
I love that. And I'll speak to that part of it. I've had so many moments in my entrepreneur journey where it's like, business isn't what it used to be and finances aren't the same and rent's coming up, which in San Diego, it's the most expensive place to live.
We're literally in the most expensive city.
Right? And before that, it was in LA, right? And so I realized that in moments of the thing not manifesting yet, the thing in this example being the money that I need for rent, right?
Yeah.
In the moments of that, I'm realizing I am literally dancing with the divine in this dance of trust.
Yeah.
I'm literally getting the opportunity to build my trust and build my faith because I'm showing up for me. Yep. I know that I'm doing what I'm called to be doing. And what's wild is I've had it multiple times where what I need comes in the last day.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, where?
Yeah.
Why? What? I'm like, okay, thank goodness, let's go. But like crazy.
Yeah. So what I've learned in those moments is to regulate my nervous system, right? Because fear can rise, right? Anxiety and all these things. So really learning to regulate that nervous system and ask yourself, am I emanating in the energy of fear or of love right now? And always returning to love in every moment.
Love instead. Yeah. No, that's so good. Because it's priming. So even I will be my back against the wall and I'll be in a deep meditation like, I love money because it comes when I call. I make money easily and freely. And literally out of nowhere, like I wouldn't have put any marketing out. There's nothing. I'm not even posting because I'm so busy working, and like out of nowhere, I'll be like, hey, I want to get started. I'm like, fantastic. Like it just comes out of left field.
It's so true, and I have to share. So because I do that too, like abundance affirmations.
Yes.
One thing that's really helped me with reshaping my mind and even like building confidence in that is when I'm doing those affirmations on abundance, I also like really heavily call out every moment of abundance in my life, even if it's like I walk to the ocean and I'm like, thank you that this ocean is abundant.
Yeah.
I think about like the cells in my body and how many there are. Thank you that by nature I am literally abundant.
Yes.
And then when something is provided for me, like for example, someone sent me a random gift that I wasn't expecting. Yeah. And it just so happens to be something that I had like talked about earlier that I wanted and I just didn't buy for myself.
Yeah.
It showed up at my doorstep as like a thank you gift. And I'm sitting there like, thank you for providing for me. Another time, like the dogs were out of food recently and I have their food on subscription. I'm like, dang it, it's not coming for a day and a half. And it's like, I don't know if I want to buy another, so I'm sitting there, they're out of food. They're a day before they get their subscription. I have to go get food. And my friend's like, hey, my dog doesn't like the food that your dog eats. And here's a free box of food.
Oh my God.
And so I was just like, thank you for that provision.
Yeah.
And so what I did with my words is I started every little moment of provision. I started calling it out almost as like a gratitude prayer to the universe, to God, to the divine, to be like, thank you for providing for me in every little way. And as I did that, like more came.
Oh yeah. You have the attitude of gratitude. You really, and some people are like, oh, be thankful. And it's like, no, like even on the way here, I was like, God, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for the struggles. Thank you for the wins. Like, thank you. And what I think is cool is when we're struggling or things aren't working, it brings you back to basics. Because when you're just like totally in abundance, you're like cruising, things can kind of fall, like slip between the cracks. So like you kind of ground yourself and humble yourself to prepare for the next like abundance landslide.
So good. This has been such a good podcast. So, okay, let's get into how can people work with you and what does it look like to work with you?
Yeah, so you can go to findyourbliss.co and that would be the starting point. You can fill out application. We kind of just get the parties started. And I tell anyone it doesn't hurt to have a conversation. Also, be serious though, because it is an investment to work, to have your own business, to learn marketing, to have your own website, have your own logo. People want to have their own product lines, and so I help them with like if you want to have like your own Lululemon, I help you with your own branding, the tops, the designs, tech packs, all that stuff. So it definitely is an investment. If you're serious about it, I got you. And if you're kind of on the fence, like it doesn't hurt, I don't bite. And if anything, people, if they're not ready at that moment, they come back like literally like 3 months or a year later, like I'm ready. And they get like the biggest thing. Yeah. So, hi, my name's Lexi. And I help you find your bliss. Because that's why I call it, so bliss is combining your vocation. So there's this concept called ikigai, and it's combining your vocation, what you're put on this earth to do, and how you can actually get paid for it. And that sweet spot in the middle, that is your ikigai, and that's like essentially your bliss. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah. So bliss is branding, logistics, insight, strategy, and sourcing. So that's what we do.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise, but more than anything, your heart and your presence today. It's so beautiful, and your words have inspired me. I got chills like 4 times at least. So thank you. Thank you. For all of you guys that are watching, if you guys want to connect with Lexi, check her out. All of her links will be down below. She can teach you how to twerk. She can teach you how to make some cash and everything in between, inspire you, remind you to be grateful. She's just an awesome person to be connected with. So make sure to check her out. Let her know that you enjoyed the show. And don't forget, if you guys do enjoy the show, do me a big favor. Either share it with a friend or take time to rate and review the podcast. That's the way that you can help. And without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.